I meant to play this earlier in the week and I wasn't able to get to it. And I don't want to skip over it because it is so strange and interesting. Donald Trump put out a statement about how he helped the farmers avoid an estate tax. But in the discussion of it, he talks about how if you don't love your kids, you don't have to leave them your farm. And it has a very weird undertone where many people saw this and speculated and wrote to me, is this Trump signaling he doesn't love his kids and he's not leaving them an inheritance? It is very strange. I want you to take a look at this and tell me what you think.
And I made farmers happy and rich again, and they're doing a fantastic job. And you know what? Someday it'll become time for them to leave this beautiful earth, and they'll be able to leave their farm without taxes.
All right. Okay. So far, I understand the policy.
To their children. I got rid of the death tax on farms so that when you do pass away, on the assumption that you love your children, you can leave it to them and they won't have to pay tax. But if you don't love your children so much, and there are some people that don't, and maybe deservedly so, it won't matter because, frankly, you don't have to leave them anything. Thank you very much. Have fun.
Have fun with that, guys, huh? Our friend Aaron Rupar on Twitter said that he had to watch this 2 times merely to convince himself that it wasn't some kind of deep fake AI prank because it's so bizarre. So a couple different things here. First of all, it sort of seems like this is being written into Trump's scripts because he said something very similar on March 13th in Iowa, and he said it in an almost identical way. And then, of course, the bigger question that many of you are wondering about is this Donald Trump signaling something to his own children? Is this Donald Trump signaling that maybe it is he who doesn't love his kids? It's absolutely bizarre and strange. And the focus now multiple times on people who don't love their kids, really strange stuff. I don't know what to make of it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Good habits have to be sustainable, something you'll actually stick to. I start my mornings with a scoop of AG1 by our sponsor, Athletic Greens, because it's just so simple. 1 scoop of AG1 gives me the entire day's worth of 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals from whole food sources. Half of Americans are deficient in vitamin A, C, and magnesium. Taking that scoop of AG1 makes sure that I'm getting the nutrients I want without fumbling with different capsules and dosages and all of these things. AG1 is also way more cost effective than buying all of those different vitamins. I drink AG1 straight with water because I like the taste, but you could put it in a smoothie, a juice, a protein shake. I would not promote bogus supplements making crazy claims. There's no crazy claims here. AG1 is just a simple product. It does what it says it does. It helps me get what I want to get every day. And when you go to athleticgreens.com/Pacman, you will get a free year's supply of vitamin D plus 5 free travel packs of AG1. I've talked about vitamin D before. The link is down below.